Here we go. Look at all these airplanes. That is quite a collection. This is a Ryan PT-22 Recruit trainer, basic trainer. It's a Cessna UC-1 Bobcat Bamboo Bummer. I've heard that before. Military version of commercial Cessna T-50 light transport. First produced in wood and tubular steel. That's what it looked like in service colors. The plane was featured in the popular television series Sky King, the first and arguably the most successful of these aviation-themed adventures. The little Bobcat Songbird was the perfect aircraft to operate out of Sky King's Flying Crown Ranch in Arizona. There were several Songbirds during the inception of the series in 1951 until its final episode in 1959. So this was the first plane that he had, this Bamboo. The notable star for the entire series was Kirby Grant. Here he is right here. Here's the Songbird number 3. Another Bobcat stood for the Japanese twin. Was Paul Mance. Roy Rogers was a licensed pilot and owned a Cessna Bobcat. I bet that's the plane of the stars. And the king of the cowboys. Now look, this one is in British. And here's one of my favorites. It's a Cessna 120, the affordable classic. It's a budget-friendly version of the Cessna 140. It was released just months after the Cessna 140. There were nearly 8,000 of the airframes produced. The wings have no flaps. Man, they got a lot of airplanes here. Here's a 140, the first post-World War II trainer. Now let's see, in 1946 the typical cost was $3,500. Today they're $33,000. How is the Cessna 140 different? Besides being a bit more money than the Cessna 120, it had a few refining features when it first rolled off the assembly line. It had wing flaps, a standard electrical system, starter and generator, a rear cabin windows. The Cessna 140 also had wing flaps which allowed for more controlled takeoffs and landings. There's those flaps right there. The Cessna 120 and 40 stands out as an excellent choice for pilots to practice flying a classic tail dragger and very economical to fly. Look at this cute little rascal right here. What is this? I've never seen one before. This is a Culver Model 5 light civilian plane. It must have not have been produced very much. Does it have retractable gear? I think it does. Okay. We have the 195, 145. Well, it looks like a 195. Airmaster was a pre-World War II airplane. Played an important role in the evolution of Cessna aircraft. In 1929, the stock market crash had begun and depression hit the air industry hard. Clyde Cessna, who formed Cessna Aircraft in 1927, was forced to shut it down in 1932. Cessna was saved by Clyde's nephew, Dwayne Wallace. Okay, I just mentioned that the Cessna Aircraft Company was saved by Clyde Cessna's cousin, Dwayne Wallace. (1911 to 1989). On the wings of the C-34, the airmaster of his own design, Wallace revived the Cessna Aircraft Company during the Depression, then nurtured the company into the jet age as the world's largest light aircraft manufacturer. Airmaster C-165, and here he is with his wife. He was designed the Airmaster in January 1934. It was declared to be the world's most efficient airplane. The airplane was placed in storage after logging 1,600 hours, Wallace being in restoration in 1987. Dwayne Wallace was raised in Belmont, Kansas with 3 siblings. His parents were Dr. Eugene Wallace and Grace Opal Wallace. Dwayne received a bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering in 1933 from the Municipal University of Wichita, Kansas. For the next 4 decades, Dwayne would lead Cessna and was known as a hands-on manager. Yellow. Glenn Martin. Here it is right here. And these are the aircraft that he designed and produced right here. And I saw the B-26 yesterday. You mean he designed the Mars too? He was a really big deal. The family had come from Macksburg, Iowa, so that Clarence could partner with the Keating family in a hardware store. The Martins moved to Santa Ana, California in 1905. There he built his first aircraft. Built 66 fuel tank. Glenn's progress from the first flight is nothing short of amazing. From barnstorming to starring in movies to building the first bombers the U.S. Army purchased, Glenn went on to manufacture the China Clipper, the B-26 bomber, the gigantic Mars B-29s, Titan rockets, and more. That's amazing. I guess you can step up here and look in the cockpit here. Can't really see a lot. And this is the Beech Classic, the Stagger Wing Beech. That was a beautiful airplane, is a beautiful airplane. and it's a classic as well. The first Beechcraft airplane, staggerwing. The ladies like this plane. Look, Blanche Noyes, Jacqueline Cochran, and John Wayne had one. Staggering legacy. It had a 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney radial, 985. There were 8 different series of these. Price tag at the height of the Great Depression was high, between $14,000 and $17,000, depending on the size of the engine. Sounds like a pittance now, doesn't it? All right, what is this one right here? Iron Butterfly. This is a Beechcraft C-45. Expediter, known as the Beech Small 18, sometimes referred as the Twin Beech. It was part of Colonel Tom Thomas's collection and was manufactured in 1940 at Ford in Wichita. Yeah, they got them tightly packed in here. Look how close it is to the tail of this V-wing here. All right, what we got? Oh, I've already seen that one. All right, here we go with the V-tail Beech. Oh, no, wait a minute. It's a Mooney. V-tail Mooney. No, it's a Beechcraft Bonanza. Well, I'm getting mixed up on my planes here. And look at this lady. This is like a 1950s. She's all dressed up in her groovy 1950s uniform, going to the burger place in her red T-Bird. 56 Ford T-Bird. Isn't that a gem, huh? That one is a classic. We're talking radial engines here. You can see how they're designed there. Aircraft engines, large turbofan on the rack. Where's the rack at? Okay, back to the little bitty ones here. What is it? This is a drone. Drone aircraft. No, it wasn't a drone. It's the Mighty Mite. One-person aircraft. And this is a Champion. Veronica Champion. A7 AC. And there was also the Veronica Chief, which I think, no, this is a Stinson right here. There's the Veronica Champ. This is a Stinson right here. Stinson S-10A Voyager, light aircraft. And what have we here? It's a Stinson Reliant. Well, knocked me down with a feather. It's a big airplane, isn't it? Okay, now we're getting into the warbird section here, but let's go back to the some of the civilian models first. Here's a Beechcraft Sport. And Beech Aircraft manufacture planes here in Liberal, Kansas. Maybe this is one they made here. They really made a solid aircraft. I've flown one of these. 19 Musketeer Sport. And this is a Pitts, maybe? Don't have a sign. International Flying Farmers, Mexico. USA. Oh, look, they have some kind of rally, I guess. In Canada. Flying Farmers Convention, Hutchinson Municipal Airport, 1946. Here's the drone that I was looking at the sign that said, you know, and the drones they have today are, some of them are prop driven. Kona Jack. This is like a small scale version of a Mustang. 3/4 replica. That's what that is. And here's the tail, the Wild Bunch penthouse. And this is the Liberator, isn't it? Or is this a Mitchell? No, this is a Mitchell. Oh, look at this Jeep. This is the one that Jimmy Doolittle used to take the war to Japan in 1942. The B-25 required 1,500 feet to take off, would only have 500 feet on the aircraft carrier. Forced in an aerial launch from the USS Hornet, 16 bombers led by Doolittle struck at military targets in 4 Japanese cities with multiple targets bombed. The overall material damage was negligible. However, the raid caused great confusion and shame among Japanese leaders. Historians believe that the Doolittle raid led to Japan's disastrous decision to attack Midway Island with the loss of 4 Japanese carriers. Of the 80 raiders, 67 were rescued and returned to combat. The Japanese murdered an estimated 250,000 Japanese civilians in reprisal for Japanese help with the crews. The B-25 proved to be a rugged and versatile weapon, bringing the war to Japan's door. In August 1943, newly arrived in the Pacific War, the 345th Bomb Group, the Air Apaches, converted their B-25 to serve additional strafer role by adding 8 forward-firing 50 caliber machine guns. The B-25 could literally dissolve enemy ships with armor-piercing incendiary ammunition. Our B-25 is configured as a 345th bomber strafer. This 3-photo series shows the Japanese frigate's destruction in the South China Sea by daring, low-flying 345th warriors. By the war's end, the 345th was credited with sinking 260 Japanese ships and destroying 367 enemy aircraft. This record came at a high cost for the brave Americans. 312 of the 325th Bombardier Group airmen died, and 177 B-25s were lost. Iron-laden maiden. Had a tricycle landing gear. North American B-25, one of the most important medium bombers in World War II. Forget how big this thing is. Look at all these machine guns in the nose. That's why it was a strafer. Let's go up and look in the cockpit, huh? Look, they got their bounty there. It's rather a cozy cockpit, isn't it? And look, they got a skeleton in there. They had a top turret gunner and a tail gunner. All right, they got them hanging from the ceiling. I think this is a Aeronica. And look at this, Pan American Airlines system. What kind of plane is this? It's a Reardon. Never heard of a Reardon. Look, it's got a radial engine. Maybe this is a Cessna. Bird dog. Here's a bird dog right here. They used those in World War II and in the Vietnam War. And that's a Taylorcraft right there. And a rear wing 175 Sky Ranger. And look at this cute little rascal right here, tiny. It's not a toy, it's a real airplane. The Staub LB-5 is a series of small planes built by Wilbur Staub. Here's the bird dog. And this right here is I think this might be a Piper. Right here. Those are used in World War II as carrier planes and spotters. The Aeronca L3B. Look at this. $1,600. Where's it at? Spotter or grasshopper? Okay, this is the Aeronca right here. Observation and liaison aircraft. First used by the Army Air Corps in World War II. The L3 series were adapted from Aeronca's pre-war tandem trainer chief models. The Army liaison type aircraft's most famous name is said to have been originated with the U.S. Army Major General Ennis Swift after observing a rough landing during maneuvers at Fort Bliss, Texas in the summer of 1941. Soon all the Army's liaison aircraft were generally called grasshoppers. There were many variants from the original Aeronca series. The Aeronca Chief was a popular choice of the civilian pilot training program. All right, this is a Cessna 175. They built 2100. This was created to fill the void between the slower 172 and the costly 182. How many did they build? Oh, 2100. It's got the straight tail on it. Look at this, another cute little rascal right here. It's a home-built Armstrong aeronaut. Is that a 2-cylinder or 4-cylinder engine? All right, we're back to the Bamboo Bomber. All right, let's go and check out these experimental aircraft. This must be a acrobatic plane, just the pits. Steen Skybolt. And here's an oldie goldie right here. Look, the Snoopy doll on top. This is a World War I British Scout, a SE-5A. Is this a Hollywood replica? And look at this jet. This little baby jet. Look at that jet engine there. One pilot. Look at the wheels. Tiny. Subsonic JS X2 jet. Beta project built by a factory received. And what have we over here? Let's go here and take a look. Oh, this is the world record. The Piper Comanche. World record #1. Distance in a straight line. Casablanca, Morocco to LA, 7,668 miles. Max Conrad was the pilot. He had a Lycoming 250 engine. How much fuel did he carry? Let's see. Pilot seat. So it had a fuel tank. You can see how the fuel tanks are inside. The whole cockpit was fuel tanks. That was amazing. He did that. Imagine smelling fumes like that. 58 hours. He had to sit in a hard seat. Oh, that was the pilot seat. In addition to, there we go. In addition to the fuel tanks that are in the plane, did you see? This is what he had to sit on, which was another fuel tank. Well, if that thing had caught on fire, it would have exploded. This is 520 gallons of fuel. Max Conrad flies a 180 horsepower Piper Comanche from Casablanca to El Paso, Texas. And here's a F-104 Starlight or something like that. It didn't have the fuel tanks on the wings. Glass Air. That's a pretty aircraft, isn't it? Sexy. Okay, is this the one? Did this one go around the world? What's the deal here? Around the world race and returns to North America. Around the world in 25 days on this Glass Air. It was a race.
Then the wild the snow line running
Anchorage.
and the mountain flanked skies of
Calgary, Alaska, Canada.
Back in
Montreal.
15,000 miles. 24 days later, Ken had done it. He built the plane. He flew the route. He circled the world. This wasn't just a flight. It was a global mission fueled by grit, precision, and love of the sky.
Started in Montreal, St. John's, Newfoundland, across the Atlantic to Santa Maria, Portugal, Marrakesh, Morocco, Istanbul, Turkey, Dubai, UAE, India, Agra, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, Okinawa. This 104 was considered to be a small aircraft, but look at it. It's pretty big to me. And look, here's a model of the Discovery. Space Shuttle Discovery. kind of miss the space shuttles. They hauled all kinds of stuff up into space. And this is our space rockets. 1961 Redstone, the Mercury, Atlas, Gemini, Titan, 7.5, Apollo. Oh, this is Skylab, and this is the Apollo. 363 feet in height. And what's this right here? What's this fuselage doing here with no wings? A prop jet. Smith prop jet. And here's one of the little experimental aircraft. I don't know if that's the one that John Denver was flying. Rutan Verais. And we have a Bowers Flybaby. Flybaby. All right, that is a, I don't know what that is with the fuel tanks. This right here is a Piper, isn't it? That's a McFarm Cavalier. Never heard of that. And this right here is a Piper Porterfield Collegiate. Looks like a combination of a Piper or a Aeronica. Here we go, the classic Piper Cub. Oh, up here is called a Manet Moni home built. Look at the one wheel. So it's like a glider. Is that what it is? Piper Cub. I soloed in a Piper Cub. J3, one of the most iconic American light airplanes. The Cub's popularity came largely from its simplicity. And it was simple, that's for sure. And this right here is, well, up above. Let's look up above. A Thorpe T-18. Almost looks like a mini crop duster. And here we have a Belanca 14 through 19 Cruise Master. Belanca. Forget about that brand name. I don't think they were in business very long. And what is up here? And down here, this is a amphibian? I don't know. Pober Pixie. That one right here. Is it a kit plane? This one's got a push prop, and it is called a Curtiss Wright Jr. 1930s. So this is a Curtiss aircraft. All right, here we have a Globe Swift. It's got wing tanks on it. And what's up above? This looks familiar. Busby Mustang 2? No, I haven't seen that before. There's a Swift. Was a place in Tennessee that had specialized in those restorations. Here we have a Funk B. Never heard of that. Never seen one before. Side by side. Look at this one. Look up. This one is a Vietnamese air camper. Home built. Okay, now we get into civilian twin engines. And this one is a Riley D16 twin. A Riley. Not familiar with that name, brand. All right. Now let's go back over here and do the civilian aircraft first before I get into the military stuff. And before I do that one, let's go over here to this Apache. What is this? Aztec. Piper Aztec, 1960. Evolution of the Piper Apache. Looks like a Piper Apache. The Apache helped the Piper break into the twin engine market. So did the Aztec. All right, here is Ford Aero. Oh, this is a crop duster. Got Virginia Tech insignia on it. In the beginning, these new aeroplanes, the flying machines, had proved themselves so ably in World War I. Wouldn't they be just the thing to get right up over the top of the agricultural crop and spread a fine layer of dust to rid the field of pests? Yes. August 31st, 1921, two men in a World War I Curtiss JN-6H Jenny puffed lead arsenate over the top of moth-infected calyx trees, which were valued for posts and poles. The arrow, when pesticides were spread by mules, the airplane became the farmer's best way to treat crops. And they call them crop dusters because they use dust. Now they're called aerial applicators because they use liquid spray. This one is a Ryan Navion. It's a Navion. And these are really solid heavy-duty aircraft. The same company which built the World War II's famous P-51 Mustang, so they made it kind of to look like a Mustang. There's a Coast Guard Stinson. Spotter plane, I guess. Fairchild. Okay, Fairchild 24 Forwarder. Light civilian aircraft. Forwarders have seen U.S. military service in both the United States and the U.S. Light transport and utility plane. Look at the gear, landing gear. And this is a Mooney. Got to be a Mooney. Look at that tail. It looks different though. Mooney M22 Mustang. I'm familiar with that. It's a 6-seater. Is that what it is? It had a pressurized cabin. The high price of producing the Mustang contributed to Mooney declaring bankruptcy. Production ended after only 30 planes. Here's an Apache. I bet you. Yep. PA-23 Apache. Light twin, 1954. Sky King got one of these after he got rid of his bamboo bomber. And the Songbird 2 was an Apache. And we have up here is a Piper Tripacer. PA-22. Nice looking aircraft. Side by side seating. And this is a Piper, what? Aeronica. Chief. Aeronica Chief. Okay, side by side. And up here was another Chief. Is that the same plane? And here's another one of the Ruitans. Oh, okay. This one up here is a J4 Coupe. I'm not familiar with that. This one's side by side seating. And look at this one. That is an odd looking aircraft, isn't it? The Ruitan Quickie. The Miller S1 Fly Rod. All right, I think that's it for the civilian aircraft. So now let's go start with the military trainers. And this is an Air Force. Look how close that helicopter tail is hanging over the top of the nose of this Air Force trainer, which is a Cessna? Yes, Cessna T-37 Tweety Bird, the first jet built specifically as a trainer aircraft. Look how wide it is. It's kind of a cute plane, isn't it? And what have we here? A rear wing Sportster, 1935. It's got the radial engine in it. And this is a pusher frame with no covering. Look at the ship's stern wheel. A Breezy, 1965, the Breezy. Certainly a Breezy. You're just hanging right there on the fuselage, strapped onto it. Passenger seat's a little bit bigger. Push prop, 4-cylinder engine, Continental. Look, Ma, no fabric except on the tail. Okay, here we go with the classic Huey. Vietnam era. The backbone of the air cavalry. UH-1 Iroquois, one of the most famous helicopters in Vietnam War. It was officially called the Iroquois, but most people knew it as a Huey because it was designated HU-1. In Vietnam, the Huey filled a variety of roles, large and spacious. The helicopter could hold up to 14 soldiers when used as a transport, or 6 stretchers when used as a medical evacuation craft. However, because of dangers facing transport helicopters, it quickly became apparent that an escort helicopter was necessary. In the early days of Vietnam, these gunships did not exist, so the UH-1C was created to serve as a armed version of the Huey. Unarmed Hueys became known as Slicks, while the armed Hueys were Cobras. So eventually they developed this model here, the AH-1 Cobra. Tandem seating for the pilots. Look at this Huey here. There's quite a bit of space in there, isn't it? There's the Cobra. It had those machine guns on it. The end body. Look at the Huey. Man, it's got a heck of a rotor on it, doesn't it? And this is the Hughes OH-6 Hughes. Never heard it called that before. And there's another Apache. No, Cobra. Was this Apache? Did they have one called Apache? No, this is a Cobra. First dedicated combat helicopter. Here's the engine. And this is a classic 50s. Or were these used in World War II? I don't think so. It was a Navy helicopter used as a search and rescue and a plane guard. It doesn't say what year they were put into service. I think probably in the early 50s. Inline engine. How compact it is. It's a Ranger aviation engine. Is that what was used in this plane right here? Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASP. 1,800 women pilots served as the pioneer WASP organization began. They transported aircraft, they towed targets for fighter pilots and artillery practice. They flew personal and airplanes between bases, transported cargo. They were not allowed to fly in combat. And this right here is a training aircraft because it's got yellow wings. Bear for the trainer, the Fairchild P-19. Took to the skies in 1939 and by 41 was rolling off production lines at an unprecedented rate. Over 7,700 were produced during the war years. You know, you don't see many of these around now, though. They have all disappeared. Here's a Texan trainer right here. That was another. I guess that was a step up from this one, the Fairchild. Oh, here's another one right here. No, this says a Vol-T. All right, I'm getting mixed up. I thought this was a Texan. Vol-T BT-13 Valiant. He was a primary trainer. An important part of Valiant's role was blind flight flying. Trainees have to fly the BT-13 blind because the curtain would be blocking their vision. Instrument training aircraft. Is this another of the same? This is a PT-23. Distinguished from its predecessor, the PT-19, by its power plant. Yeah, it's got a radial engine. 220 horsepower Continental. Crew weight 400 pounds. Fuel 6580 octane. And what is this one right here? Look how the nose is down. Oh, it's because it's on its wheel jacks. This is an Aero Design Pulsar. Twin-seater, side by side. Little bitty plane, isn't it? Built in 1985. Fiberglass home built. Commodore Duck, Wichita Wonder. This is a Cessna. Skymaster. Push pull. Larger version of Skymaster. Series of civilian utility planes. This series was notable for its push-pull twin engines. Was developed after the Super Skymaster was developed. The U.S. Air Force ordered a military version, the O-2 Skymaster. This plane served in Vietnam as a replacement for the O-1 Bird Dog. The forward air control used these because its twin engines were more reliable than the Bird Dog, which was a single engine. The forward air controllers could fly low over targets, a dangerous job that required a sturdy plane. Rutan. Viking Butterfly, canard wing plane. This was not a Rutan. It's a nice looking plane, isn't it? All right, what do we have here? 195 Air Force rescue plane. Looks like a 195 to me. Cessna 195, yes, civilian plane design. The 190, released in 1947. Look, here's the one with pontoons on it. Air Force Rescue. Okay, let's go down here and look at this Stinson. I know this is a Stinson because it's got an S on the nose. And that's a pretty plane. Side by side. And I'm wrong again, it's Luscombe. Donald Luscombe. Luscombe 8, this one is. Released in 1937. Had a more powerful engine. Oh, that's an L and not an S. I stand corrected. All right, look at this little gyrocopter. Is that what this is? Now this one over here is a Yara X-28 Osprey float plane. Intended to be used in Vietnam. However, it didn't make it. This right here is a Rotary Scorpion home-built helicopter. What kind of engine did it have? Oh, look, it's got what is that engine? Looks got a belt-driven rotor. What kind of engine did it have? Don't know. Okay, this is a gyrocopter with 3 rotors. Is this a Benson? McCulloch gyrocopter. It had the push pedal in the back. It has 2 rudders. It's kind of like an airplane, cross between an airplane and a helicopter. Okay, so the auto gyro helicopter. In other words, as it was pushed forward, the blades provided the lift. They were not motorized. These are not motorized blades. They did not have vertical flight abilities. They just went forward and up slightly. All right, I guess it's time to check out some of the military planes here. Look at this engine right here. What was it from? Marine Corps. Big radial. And what is this right here? I don't know. It's a small jet, though, isn't it? And here's the A4 with a humpback. Didn't tell you what the humpback was. Or some kind of radar, maybe? Maybe it's a jammer plane. And this one, maybe this is a British plane. And here is the famous Starship by Beechcraft. 2 pusher turboprops. Canard wing in the front. And look at that glass cockpit. The first civilian aircraft with a pressurized carbon fiber composite fuselage. Oh, that's right, it was carbon fiber. Certified in 1988. The Starship was the first modern U.S.-built production civilian aircraft with forward wings, canard, and the first passenger turboprops with pusher propellers. Designed by Burt Rutan, the Starship was a high-performance, stall-free aircraft competitive in speed to small business jets. The design also featured a 3-phase electrical system, futuristic cockpit with glass displays, and automatic de-icing system. Too much, too soon. It didn't do too well commercially. Still a head-turner, but the Starship was a flying in turbulence from the outset. It is one of the largest and most advanced business aircraft programs ever attempted, with a cost exceeding $350 million, or $50,000 per aircraft, with only 53 aircraft ever produced. Our aircraft is number 6. The Starship's team was housed in its own brand new 150,000 square foot building in Wichita and seemed to get the best of everything. Starships was tarred as hangar queens and was hard to sell airplanes that had a reputation for being a lemon. Despite the innovation and advanced technology, the Starship faced challenges with maintenance costs, market acceptance, and overall appeal for its unique design. It was terminated in 1981. If you'd like to see the beautiful plane in the air, check out on YouTube the opening scene of Murder, She Wrote, the TV series episode Terminal Connection. And here's a Rockwell right here. These were workhorses, turboprops, Aero Commander. Okay, Aero Commander. And the legendary Bob Hoover. He did incredible things with these things. Look, that's Dwight D. Eisenhower, Ike's Bird. What's this? The smallest Air Force One. It was used by President Dwight D. Eisenhower from 1956 to 61, who, as a pilot himself, would often take the controls during trips between Washington, D.C. and his farm in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The aircraft's lightweight construction and powerful engines allowed it to take off and land on shorter runways in remote rural areas. The first Air Force One to have only two engines, the L-26 was also the first presidential aircraft to carry the now familiar blue and white paint scheme. A fleet of 8 commanders were assigned to the White House and used exclusively by Eisenhower, Nixon, and cabinet and government officials. They're probably still flying. Pratt and Whitney jet engine. EOD J-57. I guess that was one of the early ones. Maybe it was in the F-86. This is the F-86. Famous in Korea. Look at these drop tanks, how big they are. The North American F-86 Sabre was one of America's most powerful late-generation jet fighters. Earlier first-generation jets had been successful, but rarely filled the expected roles. For example, air superiority jets often failed to compete with the Soviet MiGs and became fighter bombers instead. The most notable feature of the F-86 is its swept wing design. Unlike jet fighters at the time, the Sabre was easily able to directly combat the Soviet MiG-15. It shot down a lot of those MiGs. Jet engine parts. The compressor, intake, compressor, combustion chamber, turbine, exhaust duct. This is a Bell 13 Sioux Army medical helicopter, MASH. MASH stood for Medical Air. What did that stand for? M47s were used by the military as early as 1946, but it was not until 1950 that the Korean War brought the H-13 to prominence. In fact, the war helped save Bell. So they put a stretcher on the outside here. There's a medical helicopter to evacuate wounded. They vastly reduced casualty rates. and the H-13 excelled in that role. In 1957, Dwight D. Eisenhower became the first U.S. president to fly in a helicopter when he rode an H-13 during a nuclear strike drill. During the drill, the Sioux was found to be faster than the customary presidential limo. And it appears in the TV program MASH. There's a star lifter, some shooting star. This was one of the earliest jet fighters. The first jet fighter to be used in combat by the United States. The jet would not see combat after the war, after the Korean War, when the Air Force officially created the P designation for pursuit, was replaced with F for fighter. The F-80 saw extensive use by the Air Force in the Korean War. The F-80 was originally designed as an air superiority fighter, and at first it seemed to be perfect for its role against piston aircraft. It didn't do too good against the MiG-15s. And became a jet trainer. Look at the engine here. Okay, let's go over here and look at some of these Navy planes. And look at the size of the fuselage. Is this a Dauntless? No, it's a Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo plane. Designed in 1940 to replace the obsolete Douglas Devastator. Okay. The Avenger bears a great resemblance to Grumman's much smaller fighter, the F-4F Wildcat. The Avenger was especially built to be an ideal naval bomber. Grumman developed a unique method for folding wings. A unique weapon to allow for better storage on aircraft carriers. These wings are also very large, making the plane easier to control. Due to the size, the Avenger was notably slow and made an easy target, but the plane's durability and accuracy earned its important role in the Navy battles. Here's the Gull Wing, classic Navy fighter, the best Navy fighter. And look at that huge 4-blade prop. On loan from the Marine Corps Museum. Look at those gun ports. F-4U Corsair, one of the most famous naval fighters of World War II. Its road to prominence was rough. Originally designed as a carrier-based fighter, the Corsair saw constant performance issues and delays. Despite the setback, the Convair soon found popularity in a different branch, the Marine Corps. In his debut battle at Guadalcanal in 1942, the plane was soundly outmaneuvered by Japanese Zeros. However, once pilots figured out how to handle the Corsair's peculiarities, it quickly proved itself to be simultaneously impressive and difficult. The Corsair is said to have earned the name Whistling Devil. And I'm back to the civilian aircraft. This is a Stinson Reliant. This is what the pilot's quarters, living quarters, look like. A bunk bed, a desk. Pretty simple. He collected 65 airplanes and donated them to this museum. Colonel Thomas, Tom Thomas, owned 74 planes, and he broke the record for a number of planes flown by flying 65 of the aircraft that he owned in one day on his 65th birthday. Now that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Here's one of them to see on display in here. That is amazing. This is the famous Northern bomb sight used in World War II for all the bombings. You had a bombardier on the front of the nose of the aircraft who would use this instrument to determine where to drop the bombs. The bomb sight has two main components, sight head and stabilizer. The sight head pivots on the stabilizer and is locked to it by a dovetail locking pin. The sight head is connected by a directional gyro in the stabilizer. So it has a gyro to keep it level. This is a B-24 nose gear on loan from the National Museum of the Air Force. There's a trainer. Balloon baskets. Amelia Earhart. Who was Amelia Earhart? Jerry French. He must have flew B-24s. He was an Air Force career, and then he flew for American Airlines. He flew his last flight on American Airlines at age 74. I didn't know you could fly that long. This is one of the famous raids in Europe in World War II. This is a B-36. It had 4 jet engines and 6 props, push props. Very unusual design. Aircraft nose art. There he is. He was a general in the Air Force.